share with you how 3D printing or additive manufacturing, which is a better term for the word, because I find that a lot of people see or regard 3D printing as a hobbyist type thing, but it's more than that. It's starting to gain traction in a lot of areas and in the automotive industry. And why I say that is, if you look at the types of companies that are starting to take on 3D printing or additive manufacturing as a viable alternative or plug-in to their manufacturing processes. You look at Jaguar. Jaguar is turning to restore its classic cars, keep its classic cars up to scratch, using additive manufacturing as a source to produce those spare parts. Porsche also has a division called Porsche Classic, and Porsche is looking at, or the division Porsche Classic is looking at using additive manufacturing and 3D printing as a viable alternative to supply the spares. Because if you look at cars 20 or 30 years ago, they were all drawn using a paper and pen, where cars drawn in the last, say, 10 to 20 years, or even 5 to 20 years, are all drawn in CAD. So they have CAD software, they have CAD models, they have electronic information which can be stored and used to create spares. The older cars don't have that. So people like Porsche, like Jaguar, like BMW are turning to additive manufacturing, 3D printing, 3D scanning, and CAD software to create the spare parts that are required for their more classic cars. Volkswagen is also getting into the whole act, where they are even creating tooling for their production line. Ford is using this, I think, when creating cars or designing and manufacturing cars, there's sometimes bespoke little jigs or bespoke little tuning that's required. So Ford is starting to use those with the additive manufacturing process, because it's quicker, it's cheaper, and it's right there. That if the jig or the tooling is wrong, the engineers are on site. They can just change the CAD model and reprint. Doesn't have to go through the whole 6-week process and several different people in the supply chain link. It's right there on the shop floor, ready to use. So I want to share with you a little video that illustrates how additive manufacturing and 3D printing is benefiting the classic car industry. The video is not mine. It was created and is on YouTube, on the public domain, by Fifth Gear. So we all know Fifth Gear. Fifth Gear looks at cars and technology and tests cars, and so this is a very good illustration of how additive manufacturing helps and aids and is a plug-in to keep these old cars on the road and restored and preserved throughout history, as long as the technology is available, as long as the models are available. Once we have 3D models, these cars will be preserved till the end of time. Anyway, without further ado, so watch, and I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Now it's over to our engineering wizard and custom car builder, Jimmy DeVille. This time he's looking at a manufacturing process that was once regarded as pure science fiction, but is now becoming commonplace and changing the way classic cars are preserved.
Ever since I was a young man, and I realised that if you needed a part for a motor vehicle, 9 times out of 10 you could manufacture it. I've been getting these hands dirty in machine shops all over the UK. But there's a revolution on the horizon, which means these could be staying a lot cleaner.
The revolution is 3D scanning and printing, and it's helping to keep classic cars like this MG on the road by making the production of replacement car parts faster and more affordable. I've come to KW Special Projects in Bicester to meet Kieran Salter and learn more about the technology involved.
Yeah, this is that way. That way.
3D scanning is already allowing us to make virtual versions of our most cherished vehicles for use in the future.
Well, that's why we're calling it digital archiving.
Yeah.
You're creating a digital library of parts that you can then use in the future for manufacturing.
So, it's a bit like Jurassic Park for cars. The first part of the process is to take a digital scan of the car, and it's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Right, come on then.
This spaceship of lasers.
What is that?
This is your 3D scanner.
That's
so
ridiculous.
I'm going to pass it to you. Please don't drop it.
What are we talking then? Value?
It's less than 100,000.
Okay, right. What do I?
So-
Is it going to go boo boo boo?
No, you're not. Hopefully, it's not going to hurt you.
So I press the trigger and scan.
Lasers come out,
Yeah,
and then the car appears on the screen.
that's it.
That's it.
All right, here we go.
This laser scanner is a far cry from the calipers and slide rule I'm more used to. It fires out 7 lasers in a cross pattern, which make 480,000 measurements every second to produce an accurate digital image down to 64 microns. More detail than a human hair. And don't worry, it's safe for the human eye.
Look at that!
It's like painting the car onto the screen.
The seat is literally perfectly appearing. You can see earlier where your buttocks have been.
Yep.
Literally, that is the level of detail. If I was to place my hand on the steering wheel, is that getting that?
Yep. We now have your hand and arm archived as part of this MG.
Look at There you go, you can digitally remaster me.
Not only are the lasers getting an incredibly accurate image of each component, they're also recording the exact positioning of the parts in 3 dimensions.
Look at that, the gear shifter, the dashboard, the seats, the floor of the car, it's all there.
And once we got that data, it's completely portable. So we can store it in the cloud, we can keep it forever, and we can use it for doing all sorts of other activities later on in the car's life.
Once a part has been scanned, it can be replicated by the 3D printer, but this one is light years away from the sort of thing you might have at home.
This whole machine works inside a heated chamber.
So that's sort of a giant oven.
It's an oven.
That's a giant oven. So it's keeping that plastic kind of molten, so it sort of all bonds together.
Exactly right. The most important thing is to stop it cooling down too quickly, which keeps it stable.
What is that in there?
This is a prototype for a wheel for this car.
Right, so this is where I'm still a little bit confused because, forgive me if I'm wrong, but nothing on that car, certainly not the wheels, are made of plastic.
This case, we're printing the prototype first to make sure that actually fits the car, and then we're going to use that prototype to make the tooling.
Having done a 3D scan of the wheel in the same way that I did with the MG, an exact plastic replica can be printed. This is then used to make a mould from which a metal casting will be made.
So ultimately, we're still making the wheel in a casting, the normal methods, but we're using this prototyping technology to help us shortcut that process.
So in the old days, you make a buck for casting. So someone in a fabrication shop would have sculpted that piece out of wood, and that would have been put into the sand, made the impression, which would have been cast. Would have taken quite a long time, probably a few months to make that buck. How long does it take to print?
21 hours and 32 minutes.
So what that's doing right now is massively reducing the time scale in which you can make a product for like this car here.
Time and cost.
Okay.
So, a process that used to take several weeks can now be performed more accurately in less than a day. Our replica wheel should now be just about ready.
Oh, come on.
All I need to do now is remove the support framework, or scaffolding as it's known.
Oh, look at that. Come on, tuck in,
So
Kieran.
there we go.
There it is.
On wheel.
So we've started with the car. We've scanned it with the laser gun. You've then taken that scan and turned it into a 3-dimensional drawing on the computer. From that, you've created a perfect copy of that wheel.
Exactly.
And my hands are still perfectly clean. Should we try it? Oh, look. I mean, look at that. That is bob on, isn't it?
Yep.
So from that, you can take your casting, you can get an exact replica of this wheel. That means that this car is now safe for the rest of its life because it's archived. Seeing this, I definitely am now living in the future.
As well as 3D printing, keeping classics like these on the roads is also paving the way of car design. Mainstream manufacturers like Ford can develop new models faster and are now using their technology to design external bodywork components, which will affect the design and cost of producing future models.